Welcome to another episode of Procreate Printables, where I share how to create artwork on your iPad and turn it into something you can hold in your hands. This week we're creating custom printed rubber stamps. They're one of my favorite things to create because the process is shockingly simple. I'm going to show you how to set up the file, how to export it, the print vendor that I use for these rubber stamps, which is the best vendor by far. I'll show you the upload process on their website, and then the finished beautiful product, and we will stamp with the brand new stamps. So let's get into it. Before we start designing our stamp, we need to go and find out which size we would like to make it. And in order to do that, we need to go and visit my favorite rubber stamp vendor. So this is rubberstamps.net, and it is not the prettiest website ever, but they're a great company. They ship super fast, and the quality is just, in my opinion, unmatched to what else is out there. So when you first arrive at their website, you want to go to custom rubber stamps. So I'm just going to tap on that. And then we want to do these art mounted stamps. So I'm going to tap on that. And this is what they look like. You can get a handle installed for free, which is pretty amazing. They engrave your design on top in the wood, which is so pretty. So if you scroll down a bit, you can see all the different sizes, and they've got the prices over here. The shipping, I think, is just $5 across the board unless you spend, I think they had $50 worth. Yeah. So it's totally up to you how many you want to get, but just an FYI on that. The size that I chose for this one is going to be 1x2. Usually I will measure out the area that I need for the stamp depending on what purpose I'm making it for. And then I just scroll through their sizes and see if they have it. So I'm going to do this 1" by 2" rubber stamp. So it's this one right here. So now that I know that, I can go into Procreate, I can create a canvas. You don't have to make the canvas any larger than that size. You can make it right at 1" by 2". So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do 1" by 2" at 300 DPI. You can either choose the default sRGB or you can choose the display P3. I'm going to do the display P3 because that's kind of what I always do, but we're just going to be painting in black and white. So either one of those is totally fine. We're back in Procreate. I have a 2" by 1" canvas right here, and I'm going to use my Bouquet Maker brush set. It's got everything that I need to create a floral stamp super fast. The first thing I'm going to do is add a heart to the middle. This part's totally optional, but I wanted you to see what this looks like. So I'm going to come over to my wrench. I'm going to go to Canvas, Drawing Guide, Edit Drawing Guide down here, tap on Symmetry, Options. You want to make sure that vertical is selected, and that's all we need. I'm going to increase the opacity and the thickness so you can see it a little bit better on screen. And I have a dark guideline. If yours isn't showing up dark, you can just tap anywhere on this rainbow slider up here to change the color of your guideline and then hit done. All right, I'm going to use my edgy ink brush from the Bouquet Maker brush set. It's in the flat extras category. I'm going to reduce my size down to about 4%. Just do a cute little heart. And then fill it in. And that's all we need it for. I'm going to reduce the size of this just slightly. I can label this one heart, create a brand new layer, and then come into your Bouquet Maker and go into flat composition. These are all composition brushes. They help you lay out what your arrangement's going to look like. If you want a little extra help there, it just makes everything go a lot faster. So I need one that is very horizontal here. And I've chosen composition number 9 for this. So tap on that, and then I'm just going to tap it in. I'm going to get it a little bit larger so it fills the space a bit more without cropping off. And now I can reduce the opacity a little bit so I can stamp everything on top of it. And now I'm also going to turn off the visibility of the heart. I'll worry about that afterwards, after I start putting my flowers in, just to make sure that there's no awkward lines once we get the flowers going. So I'm going to turn that off, create a brand new layer. We're going to put all of our elements on new layers. That way we can move and manipulate them if we need to. I'm going to head into the flat supporting category and select supporting number 7. Because I have 3 large florals, the circles always represent flowers, the shaded circles. So I have 3 right here, and I can work with them really easily. What I want to do is I want this one on this side, I think. So I'm going to flip it horizontally and then flip it vertically. I've got this large one that's more front facing right in the middle. This one I want to tuck in a little bit more than it is right now. And then I also want to bring this one and move it over here. So in order to do that, I'm going to first select this one. So I'm going to grab my selection, make sure freehand is selected, and I'm just going to draw a line around it and then move it and tuck it in where I want it to go. There we go. Don't worry about the overlaps. We'll take care of those in a minute. I'm going to do the exact same thing with this one. And keep in mind that this one's going to be sitting behind the larger one. So I'm going to grab my selection tool again. And this time you want to be kind of careful where you're cutting. There we go. And just slide that over here. I can reduce the size of it a little bit too. And tuck it in. All right, now we can either use layer masking or we can erase. I'm pretty satisfied with where my positions are for this, and I'm just going to erase some of these overlaps. That way it's a little bit easier to see what's going on. I do need to keep in mind that this one is sitting behind this one, so I actually need to extend this petal up. So let's grab the edgy ink brush, and I need to reduce the size of this a bit more. And this is just going to come around here. So now I can grab my eraser and erase where it's overlapping this flower. So I'm erasing portions of this flower right now since it's behind this one. And then I can do the same thing over here. This one in the middle is front and center, so the other ones are being erased. If I turn off the visibility of my composition, you can see how it's starting to come together. I don't need the center line anymore since our heart is already drawn, so I can just hit the wrench and then turn off drawing guide. And now I can see how that's coming along. We have a few more elements we want to add in now. So I'm going to create a brand new layer, and I'm going to take care of this element right here next. So on the brand new layer, let's go into flat filler. I'm going to grab filler 6, stamp it in, too big, reduce the size. There we go. We're going to redraw this, so it's okay if the line weights don't match right now. I'm going to make this a little bit larger and pop it right down here. I'm going to mask this one away. So I'm going to reduce the opacity, tap on the layer thumbnail and choose mask. If you're unfamiliar with layer masking, I cover this in great detail in my Procreate for Beginners class. It's an entirely free course, so if you're just getting started with Procreate or want to learn more about layer masking, I'll leave a link on screen and in the video description. So what I'm going to do is grab black because I'm hiding portions of this, and I need to select my edgy ink brush. This is like erasing, but you can bring it back. It's not permanent or destructive editing. And I'm going to turn off the composition stamp because that was getting hard to see what was going on. So I lowered the opacity, that way I can tell where this element is compared to the other elements. Increase my brush size again. Take all of this out. And if you accidentally, like if I slipped and I erased part that I needed with masking, I'm painting in black right now because I'm hiding parts. If I need to bring it back, all I have to do is double tap where white is to select true white, and then I can bring it right back. So with erasing, you can't do this, but with layer masking, you can. So once I'm happy with that position, I can just increase the opacity back up. I also cover this a lot in my flat florals class, which I'll also leave a link to on screen and in the video description. And this bouquet maker brush set is included with that course. So I'm going to create a brand new layer right now, and I want some asymmetry with this element. That way it just feels more harmonious having similar shapes throughout your arrangement. So I have this little spot right here that feels like the perfect opportunity to tuck that shape in, and it's really nice for asymmetry. So I'm going to grab, I have 2 of these. So let's grab, I have 3. So let's grab filler number 5, stamp that in, and we'll position that one right up there. And I want a similar scale so I can even compare like the size here. So that feels pretty good. I'll just tuck this right up here. And then I can mask this one away as well. Lower my opacity, tap on the layer thumbnail, choose mask. Make sure you have black selected when you're masking, and you'll need to switch brushes because otherwise it's going to come in as your stamp. So go to flat extras, grab your edgy ink, and we're going to paint this out. And then you just want to remember to increase your opacity back up again. There we go. All right, I don't really think I need the composition stamp very much anymore. I'm just going to build this out. That way it fills out the area of our rubber stamp. So the next element that I want to put in, it was in our composition, I think. Yeah. So I had a couple little flowers over here, so I'm going to put in some berries right in this corner. And then I'll also repeat those berries like over here. So create a brand new layer and go into flat filler. And I've got some really cute berry stamps right here. So I'm going to take filler 9, stamp that in, tuck it right over here, and we can mask that one out as well. Make sure black is selected and that you change your brush. I can see this one pretty well, so I'm not going to reduce the opacity on that. And then I think I'm going to use the exact same stamp. So create a brand new layer, head back to flat filler, grab filler 9, we'll stamp this one in, and this time we'll tuck it right over here. I'm just maintaining that asymmetry and keeping similar shaped elements. Okay, mask, change the brush. All right, I have my base now. So what I like to do is to freehand in my foliage for this. If you are not comfortable doing that, that's totally fine. I have a bunch of foliage brushes. So if you go to flat filler, you can continue doing this exact same process for the rest of it. I've got several big leafy branches right here, like filler 19 through 32 are really good candidates for this. I like freehanding it because then it allows me more freedom to get in every nook and cranny that I want to get into. So I'm going to go into my flat extras. You can see I've got a bunch of brushes that are not part of the standard brush set because I'm just changing their size. I've made monoweight brushes out of the edgy ink brush, and I'll show you how I do that. And that's what we're going to want to use to retrace our artwork. It'll just come out much better once we have our rubber stamp. You don't want different line weights for different elements. We want that consistency all the way across. So I'll show you how to create a monoweight brush out of edgy ink. It's super simple. All you're going to do is slide to the left and choose duplicate. Go into the brushes settings. We want to go into properties, and we want to choose our maximum size and our minimum size. So right now I've got minimum size at 2, so we'll do the same thing with maximum size. So I'm going to have a 2% size, and we don't want it to change at all. So if I go to Apple Pencil, where it says size and pressure, we're just going to reduce this down to 0, and then we can just rename this one Edgy Mono 2%, and then hit done. Now we've got the super fine line brush that we're going to trace over what we've already done, and we'll add in our foliage. So I like adding in the foliage first. I've got this brand new layer that I created, and I just want it to extend beyond the edges. You can turn on your composition if you want to see a guideline for leaves. You could just trace what's here already. That's totally fine. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm just going to play around with where I want these leaves to go. You don't want to touch the edge, but you want to get close. You want to fill out that stamp and really get your money's worth for the size that they're printing it on. And then I also like adding in some leaves within the main area. That way it looks like it's very full, that these leaves don't just extend on the edges, that they're throughout the entire arrangement. So I'll just add in some pointy shapes here and there to make that more convincing. That feels good. So now I just need to retrace the artwork that I've already put in here. I'm going to group that artwork together, excluding the leaves that I just drew. So group that. We're going to duplicate it, so slide to the left and choose duplicate. We're going to turn off this visibility. This group has all of our layers. If we ever need to go back to it in the future, everything is separated. So it'll just make it really easy to edit it if we want to change up our stamp or just switch out some elements later on. And then for this duplicated group, we're going to tap on the layer thumbnail and just hit flatten and then reduce the opacity, and now I can create a brand new layer right on top, and we're going to trace over those elements. That way everything is a consistent weight, and our stamp's just going to look beautiful and consistent all the way through. So I have the leaves right here, and I can see my base right here. So now all you're going to do is trace it in, and it's important to be aware that these smaller elements right here Our stamp's pretty tiny. It's 2 inches by 1 inch. So if I draw all these little circles in here, a lot of them are going to be really difficult to see. Take some creative liberty right here and just make these a bit larger and fewer of them. It'll just come out so much better in the stamp than if you have a ton of itty bitty little details. Make sure you're varying up the size. And I was kind of getting like a pattern right here, so you want to avoid doing that. It's super easy to do. Something like this. And then we need the filaments, the little lines that connect down into the stamen from these anthers that we just drew. You want to include these, that way it reads as a stamen. And if I zoom out, you can still see like that's definitely a flower. I'm not taking away anything out of it. I'm just making it more obvious so it will appear when we stamp it in. Every line that you draw right now is going to show up on your rubber stamp. So just be very aware if you have to erase anything that you don't leave any remnants behind, because that's going to be part of your stamp if you leave it. I think I have everything all set now, so I can turn off the base. We can get a look at it, and then I'm also going to turn the heart back on. So that's in the middle, and I'm already noticing I could use another little stamen element there. So on that layer, I'm just going to pop in a circle right here. And that feels good. I don't have anything awkward showing, so I'm good to go with that. If you wanted to add in some details to your leaves, like if I wanted to put some lines in here, you can totally do that too. I decided that I'm just going to leave it plain like this because I'm working in such a small space. So now we just need to export it, upload it to rubberstamps.net, and order our stamp. So what we're going to do is hit the wrench, share, and they accept JPEGs, PNGs, and GIFs, I believe. So we're going to choose JPEG for this. And all you want to do is hit save image, and that will save it to your camera roll. Now we're going to head back into rubberstamps.net. We're going to select our 1 inch by 2 inch rubber stamp. So customize and order. And like I said before, their interface is not the best, but it certainly works. So you just need to come down here and choose files, and go to photo library and choose the exported JPEG that we just saved. It's uploading, and now you can see the stamp preview. You want to make sure that you're really happy with how this looks, because this is exactly how your stamp is going to print. And down here, choose one. It's totally up to you if you want a handle on yours. Because this is so small, I chose not to have a handle. I just thought it would be really clunky to have a handle on a 1 inch by 2 inch stamp. And you can rotate your image. If you ended up having your canvas rotated and you saved it out, you can fix it right here. You don't have to resave it or do anything in Procreate. You can just rotate it. Everything's good. Don't fill in any of this because we're not creating like an address stamp. And we can go to add to cart. We're all set with this. We can do our secure checkout and order our stamp. I ordered this rubber stamp, so now I'm going to show you what it looks like. We're going to stamp with it, and I'm going to show you just a few tiny embellishments that you may also enjoy. All right, here is the stamp. So I have used it, so you can see some remnants of the ink on it, but it is like perfectly done. And then I love this. They do this with every single stamp that you order from them. It's engraved on the top of the wood. And we're going to stamp with it. So I also made this one. This one still has the silver on it, but I made it too small. So definitely make sure you measure and then remeasure, because I had intended this to go like next to the address on the front of an envelope. And it looks like the right size with the wood block, but the design in the center did not go as close to the edge as I thought that it would. This is the first time that this happened to me. I should have gone with a larger one, and I definitely will in the future. So I need to figure out what I'm going to end up doing with this one. I was thinking like I could stamp the middle of the back and that could be pretty, but this one I'm not going to use right now. I'm going to use this one, which I'm super happy with how it came out. The reason why I made this one was to go on the back flap of envelopes. So you have the pretty address on the front, you turn it around to open your card, and you get this beautiful floral graphic with a heart in the middle. That was the reason I designed it, but then as I was playing around with it, I was like, oh, I could also put it here instead, or in this flap as like a surprise. When you pull out the card, you'll be able to see it. So there's a lot of different places you could use this. You could even use it on the front of the card if you wanted, above the address, or use this as your return address and then put the return address on the back. Definitely a few possibilities for this one. So I wanted to show you what this looks like. I think the silver looks best on the blue. I have tested so many different brands of ink pads, and this is by far the best. Like, I've had these for years and they still work perfectly as if I just bought them. I'm just gonna open up the silver one and show you how it looks when it's all stamped out. I very gently kind of dab the top and then I'll slide it over the top. I don't want to press too hard because I don't want to get it on the edges of the pink, because then that will show up when you stamp it. So you got to be kind of careful when you are inking your stamp. That feels pretty good. I'm just going to stamp right in the middle of the card. And then just firmly press down and rock it just a little bit. You don't want to rock it too much because you don't want to get those edges. And there's that pretty stamp. And now I want to call out the heart in the middle because it's getting lost a little bit right now. So I've got my Posca marker, which if you've seen any of my recent videos, you already know that this is one of my favorite tools for embellishing. I'm just going to take my silver and outline the heart and kind of call it out a little bit more. You could also do this in another color. I tried it in gold before, but I just liked the consistency of the silver better. So this was my favorite to use on top of here. There we go. And you could always write a message above it or below it if you wanted to, but now we've got that really pretty heart standing out right on it. That's it. That is our rubber stamp that we made with just a JPEG black and white image from Procreate. And you can do everything on the iPad. There's no need to have a desktop or a laptop to complete this project. All the links for everything seen in this video are right in the video description. So if you have questions about anything, you can find it there. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.